Hey everyone, welcome back to the Smokin' Studios for another live episode of the Rocky Mountain Cigar Show. I am so happy to be able to have our Fred back on. Now, Fred is everywhere. He's a very in-demand guy. You don't even understand what had to be done to pull this interview off. He's super busy. He's a cigar god at this point. He's kind of infamous. That's why I didn't even put what he does. He just does so much in the industry. He's on like every other show. So always a pleasure to have Fred on. By this time, everybody should have or close to have most of the winnings that they did. That they got over the last couple of weeks. Thank you so much for supporting the show. Enjoy your winnings and giveaways, as well as please share, tag the brand that gave it away or the company that gave it away to you and this show, and get the word out. Appreciate it. As well as please share the show. If you're watching right now on Facebook, please just go ahead and hit share. So without any further talking on me, we've got the Fred Rewey in the house. Fred, you are literally everywhere, though. I mean, I'm not wrong. You're on KMA. I feel like you're on a couple of different things. You do cigar press. I kind of feel like you've evolved more so that where most of the people that found you now don't even probably understand or remember or even knew that you used to own a brand.
Yeah, well, first, thanks for having me on the show. That was quite the introduction. Just so everybody knows, I just have a short attention span. So, I mean, it's not that I do a whole lot. I just really have a short attention span, and I'm probably still trying to work through some childhood traumas that I need attention. I have no idea. I'm just making this up as I go along. So,
but in all honesty, like you don't really hear too much of Fred, previous owner of Nomad. I mean, you've kind of taken yourself into your own thing within the cigar industry.
yeah, I mean, look, I love the cigar industry. I love everything about it. So, I was a consumer first, and then, some good friends of mine, said, "Well, you should try making cigars," and I did, and I loved it, and I built Nomad up, and I sold it. There's a lot of people that only know me from Nomad, which is cool. I get posts a lot. People tag me on stuff. They had the cigars, and still find the cigars occasionally, deep in the back of some humidors or their own humidors, which is awesome. And so the next transition, I didn't know what I wanted to do. I didn't know, I didn't really want to do a brand again. And it's not that I didn't like doing the brand; I loved it, but it was during all the FDA stuff, and then honestly, some of it's a grind.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the brand thing is an absolute grind. And look, I'm not afraid of work, obviously, by the output we have with cigar press and everything else, but it wasn't as fun. I didn't sign up to make cigars to talk to attorneys or find out what, this state wants this rule now, or that, you can't hand out cigars in lounges for a while there. So the media side was not something that I ever thought I would do. And it's very strange. You guys have done it for a long time, way longer than me. And to learn how to do that side of the mic has been very, very weird, but it's been rewarding.
I think it lends well for you though. Like, you're a good talker. You're very smart within the industry. You know everybody at this point, so I think it does lend well. It's just been fun in the last 5 years, just having you on and like thinking back to the first time you came on and kind of how just everything for you has just shaped out. I mean, you went through Illusione, and then you're doing cigar press. So post Nomad, you've done a lot. What has been the most fun of the activities so far? Obviously, if cigar press is currently, but I'm talking just like, does that question make sense? Like, what has been one of the most fulfilling?
I mean, look, it's all a learning process of deciding. It's why you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up. Because for me, I'm still looking for ideas. And it was, so the gap, what I call the gap year which was selling Nomad. Then I kind of had this gap year of trying to, just hanging out, and was happy just smoking cigars and going to events. And then Dion had asked me to come do some stuff for him for a couple of years, and that worked out great. And we got what we wanted out of that. And then I was in this other gap year again. And I'm like, okay, well, what do I want to do? And so I wanted to give back a little bit, or have people see people in the industry the way I got to see them. And this is probably the advantage I got in media a little bit, is that I had done cigars or got to know so many people when I was doing cigars that I kind of had this, I don't want to say inner circle because that sounds wrong, but I was going to dinner with these people. We were hanging out, we were smoking and things like that. And they're all smarter than me and they're all better blenders than me, but at least I got to sit at the table and pick their brains and learn things. And so I did a short series called The Final Puff. Mm-hmm. And what I did is I flew down to DR and I did about 6 different, very up close and personal interviews. I did one with Carlito Fuente. I did one with the Casadas. I did Lito and Tony Gomez, which I didn't even know they hadn't even done an interview together. And I had a camera crew, and I had 3 sets, 3 cameras on you. So if you see me and I look heavier, well, there's 3 cameras. Camera adds 10 pounds. Do the math. But it was a lot of fun. It was, I was very proud of those videos, and I was very proud of having conversations that you got to see the people as we see them for being in the industry, and consumers don't always get to see that. There are a lot of times they're on shows and they're talking about what's their latest cigar and why it's the best and why they think their factory is the best. And they're just real people. So after I did The Final Puff, I was looking at doing another season of that because I was really happy with that. And then I've known Thor a long time, and Thor had the magazine, and I was talking to him like, dude, you really need to get this more online. You really need, you can't wait for a magazine to be published for news stories to come out. You can't, there's some stories that are really cool stories to write that aren't just not going to make it in a magazine. And then from my side, it's all just the stupid stories that I want to write that you're not going to take up paper for that. So it was PCA 2 years ago, and we just had this conversation on day one, and we met every morning for coffee at 6 a.m. for the whole rest of the show, talking about what would it look like if Thor brought on a partner. And I said, look, I don't want to work for Cigar Press. I want to own part of Cigar Press. So I bought half of Cigar Press, and I wanted to be a full partner with it. And I've loved it. It has been a lot of fun. It has been a learning experience for me. It really has, because when you interview people, and you guys know this, you and everybody out there that does it so well, it's not about you. It's about the person you're interviewing. And I try to just keep that in the back of my mind because I can talk forever. And I try to go, okay, what would Johnny Carson do? Because I think Johnny Carson was one of the best at interviewing people. Sure. Whether you liked him or not, whether you thought his comedy was good. I think Howard Stern's very good at interviewing. I could care less about half of Howard Stern's jokes and the other stuff that he does, but he's really good at interviewing people because he gets stuff out of them. So I really wanted to do that. So I do that a little bit with Cigar Press. And then last year I started the podcast for Cigar Press, which I named it Not a Cigar Show, which I got the idea. Alex gave me the idea actually from Smoke In. And that's just an hour-long show where we do one-on-one video like this. But we talk a lot about cigars because you can't help but talk about cigars.
Sure.
But we talk about their lives or what they're doing and things like that. And those have been a lot of fun. Those are a lot of fun. I'm trying to recreate the conversations that if you were talking to them one-on-one in a lounge, not in a formal setting, just casually sitting around with a couple of people, what those conversations look like. That was a very long answer. Is the show still going on? Is anybody still here?
Yes, of course. No, it was a great answer, and I agree with you. That's kind of what I like to. That's what I like to do here. Is just like I have zero prep. I've prepped for only one show I've ever done, and that was when I had Dennis Prager on. Only because I was a big fan. I'm a big fan of Dennis Prager's, and if I got nervous, I wanted something to refer back to. But it's always been just trying to make a casual conversation. I think that's more interesting than let me fire off, 500 questions at you.
But you do prep. You do prep. I remember doing your show before, and I remember thinking you had a lot of questions. And you didn't come up with all those off the top of your head.
No, I do zero. I'm not even kidding.
Really? Wow.
I've been in sales for 25 years. I'm a professional question
Okay.
answer.
All right. Yeah. No, I have to prep. When I do my show, I have to prep. I have to think of questions, and then I've got to have them there. I can go off book. Like if I ask them a question and that leads to something else, I'm very good at going off book. I'm very good at asking follow-up questions as far as that. But I have to have some sort of format. If you ask me to fill an hour or 2 hours and I go in completely cold, I wouldn't even know what to do.
Well, that's kind of the fun of it, right? At least for me, is it's if I'm getting bored in the conversation, I change topic, right? But what I've found is if I'm doing like you see me looking down because I'm sharing the show on Facebook, but
Oh, good. You have your phone because nobody looks at their crotch and smiles that much. So
yeah,
that
no.
makes sense. Okay. All right. Okay.
Yeah, I'm trying
Okay.
trying to share the show. But anyways,
Wait, are you changing the subject? Are you bored already?
no,
Oh, okay.
no.
All right. Just
But
checking. Just checking.
as far as like show prep is concerned, like when I in the very beginning, I would try to think of a few questions going in. And what I understood about myself at that point is all I cared about was asking that question. I didn't care about the follow up. And you've been in sales, you were in marketing sales. You know the most important questions are the ones asked after the initial question. It's the dive,
Right.
it's the deep dive, it's the discovery. And so if I had a list of questions here, or if I had preconceived notions on anybody coming in, I would. Now we're friends. I know you've been on a lot, so our conversations are a little different. But like,
Right.
if I had a list of questions going in, I would my mind would want me to go bullet point by bullet point, and I would feel I would miss something. So
I
I
get
just
that.
kind
I
of
get
went
that.
back to my sales experience and was like, I don't go
Right.
into preconceived questions in a sales call.
Right.
You know, you have an idea, you have an understanding, but like, there's no path.
I can see that. I can't operate completely without a net that way. But I also do see, if I prep for a show and I have a list of questions, I do see where I don't get parts where I don't get off book enough and probably miss some opportunities as far as that's concerned. I guess it's like you can't do it in between. You can either deep research and have it nailed, or you can completely go without a net, but you can't do the middle ground.
Correct. And going without a net, it worked for me. I just kind of treated it like a sales call. That's
Right.
where it kind of clicked for me. So you bought in the cigar press, and you've been doing it now. You said this is going on your
Almost 2 years. It'll be 2 years.
second summer.
2 years and a couple. Yeah.
And what has been one of the things that you changed or kind of did differently or took in a different way? Because you had said kind of the marketing wasn't right. It wasn't getting out there enough. So where did you take it?
Yeah, it was really just expanding it. And look, Thor is the literary writer. He's trained in that. The magazine is now 19 years old, so it was 17 years old when I came on. So I didn't really want to do the reviews because I knew all these people that were putting out the cigars, obviously not the new guys coming up, but so to me, I'm just like, well, y'all get 94s. Can we move on? So I'm probably not the best person to review my friend's cigars. So I said, all right. So when we had our initial conversations, it was like, look, what am I good at and what is Thor good at? So the magazine, with the exception of whatever articles I contribute or we come up with ideas for the magazine, Thor's the one laying it all out. I have zero to do with laying out the magazine. That is all on Thor. He'll send it over to me and go, what do you think of this? I'll give him guidance on that. He does the ratings. When we come up with the best of list at the end of the year, we go back to his ratings. And that's usually when I get involved a little bit. So my job, I look at it when we get towards the end of the year, is go, look, I need to make sure these cigars are on Thor's list, that he should be looking at some of these cigars that he might have missed, that I hadn't heard about, that I'm like, hey, we need to get a review on the cigar. Let me know what you think. And I don't influence his review. And then when we get down to the order of them, that's when I kind of weigh on a little bit of tweaks where he might think a cigar is okay and I think it's a little bit better. Because look, when you do the list, and look, everybody's in a range of, if you're going to make the best of list, everybody's in a range of probably 88 to 94. That's where all the ratings are.
Sure.
But you'll have a group of guys that have a 90 or a group of guys that have a 91. And I'll just say, of these 90s, I like this one better than this other 90. They're both good. They both deserve 90s, but so that's when I weigh in as far as the list. The rest of it, though, when it comes to what I like doing, is just I didn't want to lose the culture that was Cigar Press. There are very highbrow Rob Report type cigar magazines. There are very good magazines out there, but what I didn't want to lose was Cigar Press kind of had that everyman's kind of cigar magazine, and kind of a no BS type magazine. So I mean, literally the first article I wrote for online was about that glass that has the little notch in it that you can like put your cigar in, and I just made fun of it. I'm like, I'm a grown ass man that can hold on to a drink and hold on to a cigar at the same time. So I've had a lot of fun just talking about different things that I think we all think about. I mean, I wrote one article this week that was who's the alpha dog in your lounge, because there's an alpha dog in a lounge that when they get a cigar, everybody else is buying those, and you can be the alpha dog. And my point was, once you realize you're the alpha dog, you're going to lose it, because now you're acting like an alpha dog, and then you just lost the power of being the alpha dog. So I'm having fun with those type of things. I'm having fun with just stupid articles. I mean, you got to remember, years ago, I did stand-up comedy for 10 years. This is my outlet. I joked at the beginning about working through some shit as a childhood, but that's probably part of it. I just want to have fun. And so my goal, and I know I hit my goal because somebody last year came up to me and said, look, you're bringing fun back to the cigar industry. If that's what I'm known for, then I am totally cool with that. I'm just, they're just rolled up leaves. Let's just have a good time. Let's have a good conversation. And so I handle most of the online aspect of it. Thor does the reviews. He contributes an article every week. I do 2 to 3 articles. And then we just kind of go from there.
I would agree. You are bringing fun back, and we're gonna get right back to that, but totally forgot.
I'm afraid now.
I totally forgot to do this. Sorry, Steve. The What Are You Smoking Tonight segment of the show, the only segment that we do, sponsored by Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust. So, Fred, we'll go with you tonight. What are you smoking, and what are you pairing it with?
I have a Steve Saka silver mace. I don't. I'm totally lying, Steve. I didn't know that you were sponsoring this segment. I feel really bad. I'm actually filming with David Lafferty tomorrow. I'm actually smoking a Nomad. I found one. And there's one of your listeners actually sent me a message earlier. Bruce sent me a message. He had a Nomad. I'm like, I'm going to go find a Nomad. So I'm starting with a Nomad C276. It's about 12 years old now. And right now I just have water. I may get up here in about, now that I know it's a 2-hour show, I may get up here in about 35 minutes and go pour myself a single malt and go to a different cigar. But I'm going to wait on this one. But that's what I'm pairing. Sorry, Steve.
Fantastic. Well, I am smoking the Cigar Clowns Geppetto series, available at Smoke Inn. I think it's only actually available at Smoke Inn. So definitely check it out. Really, really good cigar. And I am washing it down with the new Hidden Barn Organic Weeded Straight Bourbon. Let's see. 54%. It's a little warm. It's not too bad. It's really, really good. And for a weeded, it's really, really nice and smooth. So thank you so much, Steve, for sponsoring the What Are You Smoking Tonight segment of the show. Let's bring it back.
I just feel like Cigar Clowns and organic just did not go together. I just feel that's the weirdest thing ever to have in the same sentence.
I live in Colorado. I've got to keep it somewhat Colorado, right? So I threw the organic.
There you go. Yeah. I like it.
Now, you had said that somebody had made the comment you're bringing fun back, and I would actually agree with that. For any of you guys that don't follow Fred on Facebook, he's like an interactive game every day. Like today, you literally posted. I was gonna do it, but then I saw there was 96 comments, and you went down line for line.
I had an hour.
I
had an hour to kill.
I think you filled in like 60 of them, like 60 or 70. Yeah. It was most of them.
I posted a picture of fries, and I had the regular French fries with ketchup on the side, French fries that had ketchup all over them, kind of a truffle Parmesan fry, and then I had the waffle fries. And I said, if you pick which fry you like, I will tell you about your personality. And I just said, I'm only doing it for an hour. So if you go comment right now, I probably won't respond because I did it for about an hour. But it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. And so, yeah, maybe saying bringing fun back to the industry isn't right. It's just more so of just not taking it too seriously. I mean, cigar lounges, I mean, it's just we have a good time. Some of the best times we have are at cigar events or hanging out and just, smoking cigars. And, it's a low drama zone. So I just want to keep that kind of vibe going. And yeah, I use the word vibe and I apologize for that because that was really a really weird thing to say. But I'm trying to keep it Colorado. Trying to keep it Colorado. So
Well, but like again though, like I think when you do stuff like that, this is why I say you've transcended. I don't know anybody else that was an owner that kind of jumped around to a few different things, did what you did with Illusio, and kind of has been able to maintain like I'm Fred Rewey. I'm not Fred Rewey with Illusion. I'm not Fred Rewey from Nomad. I'm not Fred Rewey from Cigar Press. I'm Fred, but you've kind of built that in your own world. I think with the interactions that you have, especially since you do the interactions on Facebook under your own page. It's like you do
yeah,
it under
I
Cigar
don't know who else to
Press.
be. Yeah, I don't
But
know who
like
else
you
to
don't
be.
do it
So.
under Cigar Press. But I think
Well, I do.
that
Cigar Press is just so there's my personal page, and Cigar Press is always Cigar Press stuff. But I don't usually put like hey, I just ate a truckload of bacon on Cigar Press because that just wouldn't make sense.
correct. But what I'm saying though is you engage as Fred Rewey. Fred Rewey. You don't always engage as Fred Rewey from Cigar Press. That's my point.
Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think because of that, it kind of makes that interaction feel a little bit more. And then again, when you look at your thing and you posted it, literally within an hour, you had, I don't know, I looked at it, it was just like I'm 1 and 2 and 3 or 1 and 2 and 4, and then you're sitting there. Some of the comments I gotta ask you, how did you come up with those? Like, what determines what somebody is based on their French fry waffle
I don't know.
cut?
It's just I would look at something random in the room, or I'd look at a grocery list or something. I don't know. Um, yeah, that's why I can't keep going because I'll run out of stuff. I realize at the end of them they start. I'm like I was going to try not to repeat. And I think I repeated one at some point, but I'm just like, yeah, it's just fun. It's just fun. So I used to where I got the idea for that and how those responses came from is when Scott Adams used to write a comic called Dilbert, and
Mm-hmm.
we used to actually communicate via email way long ago before he was into politics and all the other stuff, and since passed away. But he used to do in this email that Dilbert was the one, or excuse me, Dogbert was the one that answered the questions. So people would write in questions to him, and Dogbert got to do the answers. And I always thought that was really funny. So I try to have that a little bit, but not so much in what I did today. But sometimes I do that in some stuff where I'm just like, someone's going to answer. I think that I think of which type of personality to match which cutter you use or something like that. I'm always trying to think of that persona that answers some of that. And then the other part is just be myself, right? I mean, it's super hard to be other people. I had the corporate life back in the 90s, I guess it was, and that's hard to do. It's so much easier to just be yourself. It's so much more freeing. Right,
Oh
wrong, or
yeah.
indifferent. It's just so much more freeing.
No, absolutely. And Bruce, you do make a good point. Like, Fred is very serious. And the hacking the blend
Oh yeah.
was a very serious interviews, several round of interviews that you did that were absolutely fantastic.
Well, it was actually an event. So it came from a friend of mine who Ron who used to own Sirius. Ron Lesserell used to own Sirius Cigars, and I got an interview with him for him to bring in my cigars, and he had a very nice shop in Texas. And he asked me the question. He said, well, I was told I was only going to get 2 minutes with him. And then we ended up sitting down smoking a cigar. And he asked me the question. He says, look, I'm thinking of bringing you in, but you have to answer one question. And I said, what is it? And he says, what makes you different than just another white guy with a cigar? Meaning, I wasn't Cuban, I wasn't Dominican,
Sure.
I wasn't Honduran. And I'm like, it's a really good effing question. So what I was doing is I was looking at the industry and go, okay, what is going to make me different, and what can I do? Because I'm a marketing guy by background, and so I'm like, what can I do different? So what hacking the blend was, and this is years and years ago. I went in and whatever blend I was working on. So like Findelus Mundus, I did with James Brown. And what I would do is I'd get the 4 to 5 tobaccos and I'd have small cigars, puritos of those, each of those puros of each of those, just that tobacco. And then we would have this event where they signed up and they came, and there'd be like 30 people, and we would smoke through each of those tobaccos, talk about them, what flavors do we get, and all that stuff. And then at the end, we would smoke the finished product, what all those tobaccos went into. And now talk about how one tobacco you smoked wasn't that great, or didn't seem that great, wasn't that appealing. And then you saw why it had a place in the blend, because it needed to ground some of the other tobaccos that might have been. So I called it hacking the blend, because I didn't want anything pretentious.
Sure.
I mean, all of my blends were me just hacking around going, well, let's try these tobaccos. Okay, that sucks. Let's pull that one out and let's put this one in. See, does that taste any better? So that's all that was. So those were really fun educational events. So I wanted to give people an experience. No one talks about the next day in a lounge of, oh, you missed this really good deal where they had a buy three, get one or something like that. They talk about experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was my way to do an experience. Plus also, if I went and did an event like that, I had a captured audience for an hour. And I got to talk not only about the tobaccos, but about my philosophy or what I was doing, what I did right, what I did wrong. So that's what those events were. And they were a lot of fun. And they were serious. We still had a good time, but they were serious in giving people some sort of level of education.
Absolutely.
But not in a pretentious way.
So have you ever considered hacking the blend 2.0?
Not really. I tend not to go back and do things again. And there's some people out there that I think do it very well. Now, I know Terrence Riley Aganorsa has been doing some things very similar. Jose Blanco did it long before me with a different wrapper. He's got a cigar that has different wrappers that it goes through. Matter of fact, Jose was the person I called and told him what I was thinking of doing. He said it was a great idea. He said
Travis
just to do, gave me a couple, just gave me some ideas of something to do differently.
Travis Pappenheim did it with Altadis too.
Yeah, I mean, look, it wasn't revolutionary. It was just a way for me to show myself in a different way, and people have fun doing it. So
what was your thoughts on PCA this year? Was it fun? I know it was fun for you. We saw your post. You had a great time seeing everybody, but what was it different this year? Was it a different feel this year?
Yeah. Well, okay, so the show in itself, I thought was really well. I think the team at PCA did a phenomenal job. I think that, there was a period of time during COVID that it was tough to keep everybody together. I think that TPE made a very good run at, getting a piece of PCA in the audience. And I think that they held it together very well. And where they're going now with their outreach, where they're going now, and it's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. And I'm sure behind the scenes, they're running around with their chicken with their heads cut off. But registration was smooth. The opening party in the park is phenomenal again. The way they rolled people right over to the sugar mill, which was right next door to keep the party going. I thought the layout of the hall was much more accessible to a lot of people and easier to do. I thought the whole vibe of the show was generally good. For me personally, it was a madhouse because the first year I bought Cigar Press, we had some appointments, but we mostly wandered around and saw people. And this last year, after having it up and running and having the online and having these different channels of outlets to retailers and consumers and things like that, it was busy. And we had appointments, every other hour. We tried to have these gap hours, but then something would fill it. So I was really, really busy. So it's kind of like being at your own wedding. You don't really remember it because it's a blur. PCA was a little bit of a blur to me. It was good. It was productive. I didn't get to hang with some people as much as I wanted to because I had other appointments, or at night I had something I had to do with different groups. But I thought it was good. It was just different for me. I mean, it really taught me how I have to manage my time. And I didn't have to do that before. Before I was either, had my own cigar or with Luciane or just meandering around aimlessly. And this seemed a lot more like work. I mean, it was work. I mean, what media does, we're not trying to do what media does. I mean, I did an article. I posted a thing literally like 3 days before saying, look, we're not covering every booth. We don't have 15 people running around. I'm not shooting videos in all of them. We have a little bit different philosophy how we do press releases. We don't do a lot of press releases. We will pass on our partners that we have, advertisers, we call them partners because we have a plan for all of them. And we will share information they have. I will share information on press releases if it's something that's very interesting to us. We think it's, there. But I'm not going to put a press release out because Skippy just went to regional manager of sales versus 3-state manager. I just think there's too much information. And look, there are great sites for that. I read Coop all the time. I read Halfwell all the time. I mean, if I want to have industry news, there are great sites for that.
Yeah,
but I don't want
yep.
to. I don't want to recreate that. I
Yes.
don't want to recreate that because I don't think
Yep.
that's what my audience wants necessarily. Everything. So, but it was a very busy show. We had a lot of our partner stuff. We had a lot of people that wanted to see us. We had a lot of information, things we wanted to cover, like everybody else does. But I thought the show was great, and I love New Orleans. I went there like 6 days early, so I could go and hit all the food because we never have a time to go hit all the restaurants when we're at PCA. So I went in early, celebrated a birthday, had way too much food the first 5-6 days, and then I just had like food court food all during PCA, because that's all we could get.
Well, you brought up a good point. Like, I've always thought of, like, people have asked me, if you went to PCA, Ryan, what would you sit and do all the booths, like a coupe or a cigar prop, or and I don't. That's kind of why I haven't taken up any of the offers to go to a PCA, because I really don't know like where I would be at, and I kind of feel like for me it would be just, to use the word you used earlier, just catching the vibe of the show almost, and kind of not. I don't want to do 80 interviews like you said. Like, I mean, some of the you had Coop last year did what, like something like 70, 80 interviews, and
I don't.
put them
Yeah,
up.
a
It
ton.
was ridiculous,
Well,
and
look, we
that's a
need somebody to
ton
do
of
that.
time.
We need somebody
Oh,
has to do that. Somebody
absolutely.
has to do that. And I'm just too old and too grumpy to do that.
But like, I don't think I would be
I-
able to add a benefit better than what he would do.
and that's really what I looked at. I was really looking at, look, everybody's feed is going to be inundated with these media companies that do it, and they do it very well. What added benefit, other than Fred Rewey being the person that talks to Guillermo, or Fred Rewey being the person that talks to Lido, what benefit would be during that week? So what we do is we get a lot of information and a lot of stuff set up for what happens the rest of the year. These are stories that we see we want to cover. We're going to go fly to LA in a couple of weeks to cover one thing. We're going to DR to cover another thing in June, and then again in September. So this is when we line up content that will be coming out later. That's stuff that either they haven't released or they haven't talked about, but we are in line ready to do that, as opposed to trying to cover the same thing everybody else does during the week. Now, obviously, we did cover some stuff, but it just didn't go too deep in all of it.
But the way you just explained it is actually much more set up of a traditional paperback magazine, where you're covering stories 6-9 months in advance, or at least investigating those, talking with those, getting them ready for copy. I mean, that is much more of a traditional. Am I wrong in that thought? It's kind of
No,
much more of
is.
that.
It is. But I mean, we still put out 50 times more content online than we do in the magazine.
No,
So
I
I
know. I'm
still
just
need,
saying, no,
I
like
still need,
it's
I still need good content. I like the structure of that. I just use that structure for, here's something that's going to be online 2 months from now. Here's something that's going to be in the magazine 4 months from now, whatever it may be. But that structure benefits us very well.
But there's also some of the media guys out there that don't look 2 months in advance. They post what they get, and like, it's done instantly and it's posted. There's not a lot of guys that do that couple months worth to build the story. I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm just saying, when you have 17 new posts a day on your website, it's kind of hard to, and sometimes it's hard to even
Right.
keep up with that.
Yeah.
So what's been kind of like, where have you found your voice in your writing? Because you've been taking on some really fun articles. The alpha male one was really was a lot of fun, and it was a great read. And it's a short read, which was, but what I think what made it so creative, it wasn't like a huge thing. Like, it was, I don't know, you could have read it in less than 10 minutes, and it was awesome. Like, where are you finding
Yeah.
your voice with that?
So most of them are about that length. They're quicker reads, and that's what I'm going. I'm going for very
I appreciate
digestible.
that.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, I'm not covering topics that need 16 pages of text. I'm just not the guy that won't hold my attention that long. The subject matter of what I'm covering won't hold that long. I would just be stringing it out. So I'm going for just moments where you got 10 minutes to go, hey, I want to read this. What did Fred say something stupid about this type thing? And more entertainment, but some education involved in that process. They're not all there. Look, there's some articles that are straight up 101 articles that are something more, not as entertaining and are more informational. But I'm really just trying to create something that people go, oh, I want to read that. And I know my attention span, and I also know my ability to take a subject and how long I can do it. And I get Grammarly screaming at me all day long saying that sentence is not structured right. But I have a tendency to write the way I talk. So forgive all the parentheses, forget the a million ellipses that are going to be in there. The parentheses are always some thought that I have in the back of my mind while I'm typing a sentence. And it's how I talk. So I want my writing to be how I talk. I know it's not grammatically the best. I mean, hopefully there's not misspellings, but I mean, there could be. But I just try to make them more conversational. So if you asked me to say XYZ, that's my bit on what I'm going to say in that content. I'm not a deep dive person on there. Thor's more the person to do some deep research on that. And again, there are people that are way better at me. Charlie at Half Wheel is phenomenal at really 60 minutes researching an article and incredible content. And that's just not my skill set.
Well, I will say, I've had Abe on this show every year, a couple times a year, and I even texted you this after I saw it. The Abe interview you did was very much of a deep dive interview for Abe. He even said, like, I can't believe where are you even pulling these things out of? So like you can do that. You do that really well. So like, I mean,
but those are video, and I'm just letting them talk.
Correct.
Those are video, me setting up and letting them tell their story. So I can do that. I can do I'm going to ask a question or a follow-up question that gets them talking. And somebody like Abe is very, very easy because he will go on and talk about different things. But if you're saying, Fred, I want you to write a, 5,000 word article on Ometepe tobacco, it's not happening.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
It's just not happening.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
But video is very different. If I'm interviewing somebody, that's very different. Then I want to draw them out. I want to hear the stories. I want to hear the things like that. Yeah, I have no problem in that format. Just if I'm writing an article, it's going to be pretty short and get it off my chest, whatever the topic is, and move on.
So anybody, if you have not seen that interview with Abe and Fred, it's very, very good. I think it's only an hour, 45, 50 minutes, something like that. But they're
all an
good.
hour. Yeah, they're all an hour. There's there were 12 last year. There's been 5 so far this year. And I'm proud of all of them. They're all very, I've gotten better. And so I'm asking more thoughtful questions and more thoughtful follow-up questions. In the beginning, I didn't even know what I was doing. I'm like, well, let's just roll the camera and see what happens. I probably should have those people back again because it would probably be a better interview. But by the time, I hit like people like John Huber and things like that, I mean, I was more dialed in of, okay, I get what my role is. I get how I'm supposed to, convey what I'm supposed to get out of them. And they've been really good. And Abe's another example. Abe makes it easy though, right? Abe's very easy to interview.
Yeah, but you really did research him for sure. I mean, very much you did.
I've known Abe a long time, so that made it easier. Yeah. And a lot of these people I have on the show, I have known a while. So I'm asking questions that I already know the answer to, but what's important is that the person watching the video does not know the answer to them.
Correct.
And that's what I'm trying to do, is to get them down that road and talk about things that I'd say half of it is probably conversations that we've had before over drinks or cigars or dinner. And I'm trying to recreate that environment in a video situation so everybody else can kind of enjoy what those stories are.
Well, you did a really good job. And I literally texted you right after I watched it. I kind of rabbit trailed off here from PCA. I want to circle back to PCA. We do have a question here. Are you looking forward to Vegas next year, or would you like it to stay in New Orleans?
So I like both cities, but for different reasons. I'm not a big gambler. I've been to Vegas a million times for a variety of things throughout my life. This sounds really stupid. I love gambling. I love playing craps. I play poker with some friends every week, but not for big dollars. I hate losing money. And I know that sounds stupid because nobody goes to Vegas going, "Oh, I'm totally cool losing money." But everybody's going, "Well, I'm cool if I got a budget of $700 a day, and if I lose that every day, that's okay. That's my entertainment." That's not entertaining me. I'd rather take that money and go to some really good dinners. So I like
Yes.
Vegas for the food. I like Vegas for the shows, although I never had time to see shows during PCA week. But I do like Vegas for that. I'm okay if they do 2 years in Vegas, 2 years back in New Orleans. I like both those cities for different reasons. I'm okay if they never go to any other cities. So yeah, I'm looking forward to going back to Vegas. I mean, I like New Orleans because it's closer to me. I live in Florida, but
Yeah.
I'm totally cool with going back to Vegas. I would say I probably prefer New Orleans, just for the food and everybody's in a central location. We lose that a little bit in Vegas sometimes, but yeah, I'm okay with both, and I'm okay going back to Vegas.
A lot of people are saying New Orleans was a lot of fun for the surrounding food. Like the food within the
Oh yeah,
PCA, everyone was like, "Eh, dog shit," but because it's cafeteria food, like you had said. But like the surrounding food in first off, the surrounding food in New Orleans has to be also financially much more palatable than the surrounding food in Vegas, just in general, right? I mean, am I wrong
yeah,
in that?
yeah. No, I think that's right. And look, I think if you like the food, the type of food that's in New Orleans, then you like that food. If you don't like that food, and I love that style of cooking and that food. If you don't like that food, that's not the city for you because it's all in that same genre.
Correct.
But I mean, to your point, stuff nearby. One, I think it was much cheaper than Vegas. Two, you did have a couple things very close to convention center. You could go to Kashan, you could go to Butcher, you could go to Gus's world famous chicken. So you did have some things that you could sneak away and go to for lunch or whatever. And there's a ton of restaurants nearby that are really really good.
So, what did you see within PCA that if you had to think back and go, that's the standout for me? What was the standout for you brand wise? And I'm talking and I'm
No, that's a good
talking
question.
not legacy necessarily, like newer, smaller brand. Like what stood out to you in memory?
A newer, smaller brand.
Well, let's do both. What stood out to you as the best of the show, and then what newer thing kind of caught your
Wow,
eye?
that's a really good question. So I think that behind the scenes, and I have an article about this coming out later, but behind the scenes, LFD has been really building. They redid their factory. I was down there in February. They're probably going to have at least 25 to 30% more output. I'm really liking what they're coming out with the team that's there now and the structure and solidifying. Lito Jr. in the States has really grown tremendously. Tony with the factory. Lito's always Lito, of course. Inez is always Inez running the factory, running the company, and Eddie Guerrera there. I thought the carbon flower was an interesting project for there. Was an interesting thing. So I'm excited to see what they're doing. I was curious what La Aurora, and I had tasted it in February, and curious what they had rolled out with the new sequel to the Fuerte del Sol of the
Mm-hmm.
Family Creed series.
Mm-hmm.
And they went a direction I didn't think they would go. They went stronger, and that cigar was really, really good. And then there's guys that keep showing up. Postania, the guys from Cigar Hustler. I think Postania is really getting some serious traction now, and they've been putting in the work and putting in the blends and doing a great job. Howie G has been doing a really good job. I
Yes.
think he's really, he's been really, putting in the time, some hustle as far as that's concerned. So you're seeing different level of tiers solidify their place at the table. I think Domain has done some amazing things, some
Agreed.
amazing stuff that they've got coming out. I've always been amazed by what Alfonso Nelson's been doing. I think with that, his stuff. I think let's see. Just kind of trying to walk down the hall here. So there's quite a few though that I think that are just really solidifying a place in there. Obviously, always James at Black Label.
Mm-hmm.
Really, just that stronghold he has on a specific market, and how in an industry right now that it's a lot of turmoil in tobacco acquisition. I also think like what Rafael's done over at Altadas, I think on those blends just keeps knocking out with my perception of what big cigar companies are. To me, their inability to make boutique quality cigars, and by that I mean they're more craft oriented. They're better tobaccos. That it's hard. It's easier to do that quality when you're going, hey, we're only going to make 10,000, 20,000, 50,000 sticks, whatever it may be. Very hard when you start talking about in the millions. And I think what Raphael's done over there has been absolutely amazing. I sat down with their new CEO and talked to him to see what his directions were, and that was a good conversation. So there's a lot going on, but a lot of really good things for being cigar smokers.
Now, Raphael is a very interesting guy.
Yes, he is.
He almost kind of single-handedly has brought Altadis kind of back into a younger generation, almost in the sense of like the new blends he's coming out with. Like you're right. Like I don't know of another person that could have done it with the suave that he has turned around. Does that kind of make sense? Like I think he has turned around Altadis. He's brought Altadis back from a just a regular brand to like a is what I'm saying making sense?
Yeah. I think. Look, I mean, again, my perception of an Altada, say 10 years ago, was very different than it was today. I mean,
Correct.
some of that was naturally going to have to happen because boutiques had grown so much, such a stronghold, and they're even good at their rebranding. Crown Heads has done an amazing job, with Oz in there now, and their rebranding looks really, really good on the shelf. And so your big guys had to learn how to play that game, and bringing in somebody like Raphael that came from that game, I thought was an interesting move, but I didn't know if he'd be able to execute. I know he's talented. I mean, Aging Room had some phenomenal cigars, but I didn't know if he could execute at a high production level. And so really when I got the inclination of that, and look, I've known Raphael a long time, and I was, like I said, always impressed with Aging Room. And when he went over there, I thought, okay, we'll take a look at it. And so there was a 2-year period that Alex and I did for Abe, which was this connoisseur club. And what we did is that we sent 5 unbanded cigars to everybody that was part of the club, and they would smoke the cigars. They didn't know what they were. And then Alex and I once a month would do a reveal show where we told everybody what the cigars were. And the way that worked is that, everybody got the cigars. Alex and Abe would send me 2 packs, and they were there with strict instructions not to tell me what they were. And I didn't know what they were until right before we went live on the show, usually, or the week before. I would smoke through them. I would evaluate them. I would take my guesses, and then Alex and I would text back and forth. Sometimes I'd be on my deck. I'm like, dude, who is number 3? This is amazing. And then he's like, you're not going to believe it. And that club was very, very good because we prejudge cigars. No matter what. If you hand me a cigar and I look at the label and I know who they are, my perception of that is absolutely going to affect how I smoke that cigar, whether I like it or not.
Agreed.
It doesn't mean a good cigar will not stand on my palate. It just means it's got more. If I don't particularly like that brand, it's got more of an uphill battle for me to like that cigar I'm smoking. If I don't have a band, there's zero prejudgment. And so this ties into, of the 2-year period, and most of them were blends they made just for Connoisseur Club. The ones that killed it, there were a handful of people. Sacco always did well, stuff like it. But Raphael, which I think had 4 different ones over 2 years, they were all amazing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, this is a small batch scenario because it's made just for Connoisseur Club. So there was like 500 or 1,000 cigars, whatever it was. Can he do this at a big level? And he has. He really, really has. I mean, I would have, if I didn't already know where they were going, I probably would have walked past Trinidad, the Tommy Bahama. I would have, oh, great, Tommy Bahama's got their name on a cigar. It's not phoned in. So to your point, what Raphael has done there, Oliver on their marketing and stuff, they are very dialed in, and I've been very impressed with what they've done out of a big box, high production scenario.
No, they've done very, very well, and he's been blending some just killer cigars too, the last couple of years as well. Now, as far as the smaller brands, the boutique, I was on Cigar Prop last night, and kind of the generic definition of boutique, and I think you kind of said this in one of the few times you were on here, or one of the several times you were on, that about under a million cigars would be considered boutique. Am I correct in that thought
That's
for
not
you?
my definition. That is an industry standard definition. That
Yeah,
is
yeah,
not my
that's
definition.
kind of the catch-all. But
Yeah.
I thought I heard you say, or maybe you said that was an industry catch-all. So what's your
That's an
definition?
so my definition is that this actually came out on Coop Show, and it was probably about 8 years ago, 9 years ago. And this question comes up about every 4 or 5 years. What is boutique? Matter of fact, I have somebody, I'm not going to say who it is right now. They're writing an article about this, which is going to be really good. But my definition of boutique is that the moment that you make a decision on a blend based on bottom line profits or production number availability, you're no longer boutique. Because I believe that there are companies that are doing a lot of cigars that are not sacrificing anything for the bottom line pennies, or sacrificing it because I can run twice as many of these cigars, but I'm going to run out of this tobacco. So I'm not going to put this, even though I know it's the best blend, they make a change because they want to put out more cigars. They're no longer, to me, it's a mentality. They're no longer boutique mentality.
Ah, I see what you're
So
saying.
that's just my definition. Doesn't mean it's right.
No, but I
It's
like
just
that
that's my
definition.
definition.
I like
Yeah.
that definition because essentially, if you're sacrificing the quality, you're not boutique.
Yeah.
For the
So
money.
the interesting thing about boutique, though, that's coming up right now is that and this is the premise of what me and somebody else were talking about. Boutique, by definition, is a small subset of anything, right?
Correct.
So if you have 100 people out there and 5 are doing something different, that's boutique. Maybe 10 out of 100 is something boutique. We have a lot of companies out there now that are doing something. Are you still boutique if you are no longer, you're not mainstream, but you're a big chunk of the pie? Are you really boutique, or does it need a different name now?
So I don't disagree with you. I think there needs to be an in between. Maybe craft is above boutique, right? I don't know. You're more on that foodie, probably craft beer side too. Would craft be a higher designation of boutique, or is it just another word?
I don't know. I mean, look, Skip Martin has used craft forever. So, I mean, I think that's probably his definition of not being boutique and saying it's craft.
Yeah, but what's the difference on that? Is what I would ask him is like.
Well, I mean, that's a question. That's a question for Skip, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that's a question for him.
Yeah.
Everybody, look, if you're somebody like Skip, you're somebody like James Brown, you're somebody like these people out there that are sticking to what it is that they believe that makes the best possible cigars. You can call it whatever you want to call it. You can say it's boutique, but I think boutique is being thrown around. It's like the term master blender gets thrown around a lot. I think there's 5 to 7 master blenders in the world. Just because you go down and blend a cigar, or you've blended multiple cigars, does not make you a master blender. A master blender is somebody that you can put any tobacco in front of them. They didn't tell them what it is, and they can tell you what the tobacco is. They can tell you where it's from. They can tell you that, they're like sommeliers of cigars. That's a very, very small number. So the term boutique has been marginalized by the guy that shows up at the show for the first time and has one blend, and he's boutique. But then you got somebody that's out there that's been around for a long time, like a Skip or a James or somebody like that, and like they're also boutique. Those are not the same players. They're not the same thing. And I think you have to address who's the person that's just going down to the factory once and they slip 3 cigars across the table and they smoke all 3 and go, okay, I want this one. Great, your business, you're a boutique. Now that diminishes what the other guys are.
Totally.
So I don't know what that line is. I don't know what that term's going to be. I think that's going to be an ongoing conversation between now and the rest of the year, especially when this article comes out. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a mentality, but it's getting diluted.
So can you have like a General or an Altadis put out a boutique line where they're not definitionally by you, they're not sacrificing anything for the pennies on that line? Say they could get past that as the corporate world. Could that actually then be a boutique line within a legacy company?
I don't know. I mean, now you're getting into terms as far as small batch. If somebody puts out, I mean, that's kind of what LEs were a little bit till they were overused. I think that the better answer to LEs became seasonal things. I think some
Okay.
factories release things seasonally that, hey, once a year we have this tobacco and we're going to do this with it. I think that becomes a better term, but I don't know. I mean, I would have to literally spend hours brainstorming with a circle of people going, okay, what would we call this and how do we define it? But do I think that a large factory has the ability to put out that quality of cigar? Absolutely.
Oh
I
yes,
think there are,
absolutely.
because I you look at somebody like a Padron. I mean, a Padron 64 is a flawless cigar. It's on everybody's best of lists. If they
Yep.
name their top
Yep.
tens, it's in everybody in there. It's clearly not boutique because they
No.
do a ton of them. But but it checks all the boxes of boutique, other than
Correct.
saying how many they make or what some other things, because there's not a guy in his garage or whatever. But it's still a perfect cigar for its category. So I don't know how you define that. I don't know how do you minimize that without taking something away from the other people.
So it's funny because you kind of explained that third category that we talked about last night. The way I explained it is you can have like an Espinosa, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Definitionally, they are not boutique. They sell well over 1 million cigars a year, I'm sure. Okay. I know they do. So but they have that boutique feel. So like to your
yes.
point, like you do need something as an in between. Um but I also think that definitions are just super overused and perverted. And like you said, the guy goes and slips three across the table. Had nothing to do with blending. Had nothing to do with tasting. He had nothing to do with anything. They said these are just in the background. Here, you choose one. That's not boutique. I mean, that's picking a picking up a cigar and putting a band on it. That's literally all you did. So
Right.
do you know it's such a I don't know that it'll ever be flushed out. Like do you ever see, I mean it would almost take a PCA to flush that out and make those definitions, but then legally that also might hurt the industry if they define definitionally
Well,
stuff too.
I don't think there's any other than water cooler talk or on these shows. I don't know that there's a reason to define it from a consumer standpoint because look, if you like the cigar, you like the cigar. So regardless of whether the company you call a boutique or don't call a boutique, whether they make 10 billion cigars or they make 10,000 cigars, are they coming up with really good product? So I don't know how you define it. Now there is a difference between being a manufacturer and being a brand owner. A
Oh, big
brand
time.
owner is somebody, so that's somebody, that is the
Big
guy that
time.
gets three cigars handed to him, and you're like, hey, great, you're a brand owner. That's very different than being a manufacturer that's in there buying tobacco, trying to make sure they have the right tobacco, trying to figure out what to do if they run out of that tobacco. Can they make a substitution that works, or do they have to take
Mhm.
the blend not be in production for a while? That's a very different distinction than what's boutique or not boutique, I think.
I would agree. I would agree. And manufacturer doesn't also mean vertically integrated. Manufacturer could be
No,
just somebody that has a facility that they buy their tobacco and bring it in, right? Like you're not talking about full soup to nuts vertical integration on that side.
no, because they look, that's costly, right? I mean, there's only so many people that can have a farm and have the ability to have a farm, sit on tobacco for several years, 3 to 4 years before they get playing with it, ferment it, and look, there are big companies that don't ferment their own tobacco. They have a company that does that. They do it to their specs. They get the tobacco in. I'm not saying one's better than another. I'm just saying that if you're defining factors, they've got to be from seed to store.
Correct.
That's a very short list of companies.
It
And some of
is.
those companies are very good at that. Some of those companies are not very good at that from my standpoint of what cigars I like.
Correct. So
I
as
think what's
you
more, the bigger question to ask really becomes for me when I look at these new companies come along. So let's just say this is your first PCA and you come out, and let's just say you got a great cigar. Let's say you got partnered with a great factory. Let's say that whatever they slid three cigars, or you were there for a month and you went through it and you came out with a really good cigar. My question then becomes is what's your ability to recreate that cigar? What if that cigar is great and it sells out? Are you partnered with a factory that can get you that tobacco? When I had my DR factory, it was very small, but we had a very good line of being able to get the tobacco. When I went to Nicaragua, I went with AJ because AJ in the very beginning, I knew whatever cigar I created, he had more tobacco than I could ever use, and he could have the same tobacco. When I went with James Brown at Black Label and had cigars out of there, because James was unwavering in his level of perfection, so that if we couldn't get the tobacco, he'd go, look, we just can't do this blend. So you've got to have one of those, because if you just have a small factory that's going to churn it out, guess what? When you get the cigars back in the States, they're not going to be the same cigars because they made a substitution that you didn't even know about.
No, and that's a very good point. It's sometimes in some brands, Ezra Zion being one of these, and Cigar Clowns before they went to the shelves, they made their living off of 300 and done. They had 300 boxes and done. It was one and dones. It was one and dones. You can do really, really well off of that, but I also think you will always have the guy that goes, I want that other cigar back. Like, I want that back.
Yeah.
And I think those brands that focus only on the 300 and dones and the 400 and dones without even trying to go to the shelf, I think they miss a lot, because you don't get everybody to get a box if you only have 300, right? I mean, how quick do those sell out? When you were Nomad, like they're super quick. So like, it's kind of a double-edged sword to play that game of only having LEs, because you're never making your customer fully happy because they can't go back and relive that experience that they want to. Is that fair?
I mean, yeah, but I mean, it's a different model, right? I mean, it's a different audience. I mean, so there's a restaurant I go to that nearby that the chef changes the menu every 2 weeks. So when I go in 2 weeks later, I have a totally different menu. I'm totally cool with the experience. It's like, what did they do with the foods that week that they had available that we're able to get fresh and bring in? So that's a different model than me. I'm not in there going, man, I really wish I had that meal from 2 weeks ago. I mean, a little bit I am, but that's a different model. It's a different audience.
No, I mean, that is true. That is, it's definitely in my opinion, probably a younger audience too, that does those chasings. But when you think back at PCA and going through some of the small stuff, like what was maybe a company you've never even seen before or heard of before at the show that stood out? And whether you tried their stuff or not, you were at least
you've got to ask me in a couple of weeks, because I haven't smoked them. I've got them all here. I haven't smoked through those yet. So
well, just what stood out, like as a small company, you're like, wow, that table's impressive. This is the first time I've seen you.
I'd have to think about that. I'd have to think about that. I mean, I know that I didn't get to enough of them because I was so busy on the normal repertoire of people to go through. I need to clone myself, or I need to prioritize in a different way, because I really felt like I didn't get enough digging into those. So it's got to be a question for somebody who's got a bigger crew than me, probably.
So do you find yourself, as you're going through PCA, kind of somewhat gravitating towards the smaller brands sometimes, or at least kind of glancing into them, being that you owned a brand yourself that was a smaller brand, a classified boutique brand? Do you live in that a little bit here and there still?
Not as much as you would think I would. I'm just trying to see who's got a story and who's got some really good cigars, and I feel they can be replicated. Look, the sad thing about going to PCA, when someone drops in and it's their first PCA and they think they're going to do really well, the sad thing is they probably won't, because one, you can't just show up at the show, pop up a booth and think you're going to sell great. Your sales at PCA are based on the work you did for the prior 6 to 9 months.
Correct.
And then there's the other part, when you roll, if it's your first show, they're not getting to you. The buyers are just not enough of them aren't getting to you. When they see you by about year 3, 4, and 5, and they're like, I keep seeing this brand, they're still here. It's kind of a natural selection process that, like, look, if someone's brand's there the first year, like, I'll see if they're around next year. I'll see if anybody's asking about them. Because there's not an unlimited amount of humidor space in these stores, right?
No, there's not.
So they're by virtue of, yeah, are they going to pass up on some gems? Yeah, but then they're taking a risk. They're taking a risk on something that nobody's heard of if they're going to give up real estate in their shop for that blend. And is it a shop that works with their, their consumer base, that educates their consumer base and say, hey, I know you like this cigar, here's a new brand, you might want to try it. But then there's a risk. If they're a brand new brand, are they going to be around next year?
Mm-hmm.
Are they going to have the same cigar next year?
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, if I was a retailer, I probably would pass by a lot of the very first year ones, just because I'd be going, well, maybe, unless I meet the guy and there's a story and I really want to back him. It's a really good question for like a Jeff Borshowitz or an Abe, or any of those guys, Gary Pash, anybody that's been around for a while. What do they do to bring new companies in? But then, because of that, you have a lot of Cigar of the Month clubs that do a really, really good job
Mm-hmm.
being able to showcase those blends. You have companies like Small Batch and Cigar
Yep.
Page and stuff like that are able to pick up some of those small ones and see if there's some
Black
traction.
Box. Yeah, Black Box Cigar. They do the monthly subscription. I think it's called Black Box Cigar, if I'm correct.
Mm-hmm.
I think you're right. Like, I've known so many brands that have gone their first year and they're like all psyched to go, and then at the end you feel like you've got to like build them back up again because they're like, oh man, like everyone walked by. But you brought up a really good point that I think a lot
There's
of
hundreds
times,
of booths there, right? There's hundreds
there's
of booths.
hundreds.
I mean,
there's hundreds.
and they've got and retailers have appointments, so that it's part of what I was a little unhappy with losing the extra half day, because I thought it cut down the time too much. There's three fullish days, and that was the one thing I think PCA did a great job this year, is that last year, day one was pretty busy, day two was pretty busy, and day three fell off the way that half day normally did. And this year, day three was very strong. And I think that some of those brands, I remember from being there, it was really day three and the half day where I started getting a lot of traction, because they've already, they go to Drew Estates, they're going to be in Drew Estates booth for 3 hours. They go to, Altadas or General, they're going to be there for 3 hours. They're going to go to Davidoff, wherever they're going to be, and they're going to be there. So it's a time suck. It's just a matter of so much of their time is gone. When do they have time to go, okay, let's go look for some new blends? And this year, I think they did a better job of having more time to do that.
Well, the fact that they didn't have an annex, and it sounds like they actually had the brands, everyone kind of scattered amongst everything. So it kind of made retailers walk by everybody versus go, I'm going to avoid that year. Or I'm sorry, I'm only thinking of that 1 year, that area,
Right.
What is, as a member of the media, and then a personal question, okay? So look at it from two different glasses. What is a huge pet peeve of yours at PCA from a media standpoint and from a Fred Rewey standpoint?
Wow, that's a really good question. I don't know if I really have any pet peeves on either of those. That's a really, really good question. I mean, for me personally, it just feels like there's not enough time. There's just not enough time. The point you brought up earlier of what, I didn't get to enough of the small up and coming blends, the new ones. So I think I need more time. I think I just need more time to showcase, some of the smaller ones, or even get FaceTime with them. So I think, it's probably both sides of that. It's probably media and personally, but I feel like, as hard as I worked, I still feel like there's a third of the floor I didn't get to, and then, you prioritize, right? So then it's like, I probably didn't get to see enough of the cool new accessories or whatever's out there. I tried to get to a couple. I tried to make a point at one point going, okay, this block, I'm only going to go focus on this. But I think I could do a better job of managing my appointments and going, okay, try to group them in the same area, because God knows how many steps I'm putting on, because whatever appointment I had, it was the next appointment was across the hall type thing. So that's probably one thing for me, but that's on me. That's not really on PCA.
I've heard other people say a pet peeve is like what you said, a retailer will be in the booth for 3 hours and you're trying to do an interview or something, and they walk past your camera or walk in front of it. Little stupid stuff like that.
I mean, look, that doesn't bother me. I get the guys that probably take it more seriously and more professional than I do. I know first and foremost, this is a trade show to do business. And I know that I am there as an ancillary to cover that. And I am not going to get in the way of anybody that is there doing business. So I'm not walking to a booth without an appointment. Maybe I'll walk by and just say hi to somebody, shake their hands, and just say, "Hey, man, I just want to say hello." And is there a good time to come back later type thing, or oh yeah, catch me on Sunday, at 2 o'clock, whatever. But I try to preset all those because I mean, make no mistake. I mean, this isn't a media event. Media is
Correct.
covering this event, and I know some of the other guys would be pissed at me for saying it, but at the end of the day, this is a business trade show.
100%.
And so I am not mad at, look, I could be shooting anywhere and someone could walk in front of the camera. It happens, to me. I mean, I think it's part of like, hey, this is a live show and this is what's going on. If people streaming live, whatever it may be. If the retailer is legitimately spending time in that booth because they're doing business, then they're doing business. If I have an appointment, then I wait. I know my place in this.
Well, so you said Bruce here wants to know, and I think you answered this, but do you make a list of who you want to see before the show starts, other than your appointments?
Absolutely.
No, other than your appointments.
I do have. So I try to get a list of people that are on my radar. There's always a ton that I don't know their names. I have a lot of post follow-up, so I have the list of all the companies that I didn't get to that I can reach out to and get their stories and get their blends in and try their blends, and we can review them. I have a whole separate list of anybody that has not been at the show before, so I can reach out to them and hey, sorry I didn't get a chance to stop by, but I am interested in hearing what you guys are doing. So I do a lot of post-show stuff for that, and I don't think a lot of the guys do that, and that's okay because there's only so many hours in the day. That's the benefit of Thor and I kind of having different roles in what we do. But I do have that list of anybody that was their first show or first 2 years. I have the last 2 years. I've only been with Cigar Press 2 years, so I've only had 2 years that I've actually bothered to do that list. But yeah, I do try to see who they are so I can reach out to them. Some of them reach out to me during the year. But yeah, I try to have some stuff that going, look, this isn't somebody we have an appointment for, but this is somebody that I need to go see, what they've got going on.
Now, I want to kind of switch here and bring up something that was brought up on KMA a couple weeks ago, and I was really curious. I don't think you were on that show. Do you remember the KMA episode where they brought up Simply Stogies? Aaron LaVega made the comment around retailers need to help smaller brands more and push their product more than the bigger brands. And give them better shelf space because everybody's going to go for the Padrones. They don't need to be right in the front and so on and so forth. And Abe kind of made the comment around, and I agreed with him wholeheartedly, like, I'm going to go for the least path of least resistance as a retailer. It's not my job as a retailer to build your brand for you. And that's one of the and when you look at everything Abe brings in, that's his entire mentality on who he even brings in. If you're unwilling to put your time in your brand, I'm not willing to put my time in your brand. But I'm curious to hear your point on, is it a retailer's obligation or role to help build a brand or market a brand within that store, or is it the manufacturer's or the owner's role solely to build that brand and then allow the store to kind of feed off of what they're doing?
I don't think it's a retailer's responsibility to build anybody's brand. I think that if a retailer decides to bring in a brand, I think it is their responsibility to make it as best shot as possible. And I think it's their responsibility, but that's just being a business owner. If a retailer is going to say, look, I'm going to bring in 10 boxes wide of this brand, then I think the retailer, just being a good business person, is going to want to see if people, smoke that cigar. But I totally agree that it's not the retailer's responsibility. It's not a charity. And I think Abe's definition of that, and Abe is one of those people that definitely defines it that way. And I think Jeff does to some extent too, that, I need to see that you're working to promote your brand, not just, you're gone because I picked up the boxes and it's my job to sell your cigars. I think that retailers should make sure they give it a shot. I think that there are better retailers than there are other retailers. Totally. I agree that I look, if I had a shop, and it's the one part of this business I haven't done, at all. Well, I'm sure there's lots of parts I haven't done. I haven't had a farm, but no, I don't want that's a lot of work. But I would agree that, look, I probably wouldn't have, from a managing a humidor standpoint, I would probably not have Padron front and center. I would probably not have Fuente front and center. Not because they don't deserve it. It's because the guy that goes in there to buy a Padron or goes in to buy a Fuente will find it in the humidor. So I don't need to give it an end cap necessarily, because that guy's going to be just as happy going to the back corner, picking up his Padron and walking out, picking up his Fuente and walking out, and they will do that all day long. I think that retailers that go, hey, this is new, and has a shelf that go, this is just came out of the show, these are new brands, I think they can highlight it that way. And if they've made the commitment to bring it into the store, if they've actually made the purchase, then yeah, I think they don't just throw it on a shelf and hope that it sells. I think they've got to point people to it. But again, it's still the manufacturer's responsibility to get people out there talking about the brands. I don't know there's a multitude of podcasts. I don't know anybody in the podcast world that if they contacted you or one of the other guys and said, hey, I've got this brand, I'm kind of interested in coming on the show and talking about it. If they send you cigars and you smoke them and you're like, they're good cigars, you're going to have them on the show.
Yeah.
But how many brands don't do that? Like another example is that, look, the PCA to their members releases the list of retailers. So the 2 weeks leading up to the PCA and during the week of PCA, our email boxes are packed full of come by our booth, come by our booth, come by our booth. And let's just say that there are 100 different companies that are sending out those emails in that 3-week period. After the show, I think I have seen maybe 5 companies that have kept any kind of marketing campaign talking to retailers. You have the list of retailers. Correct. You have the ability to have that ongoing conversation. And if they don't want your emails, they can unsubscribe. But how many of them don't do that? Don't even do that effort. Yet you think that they should buy your cigars. They just came out of the show. They may or may not remember you. You have an opportunity. You have to market your cigars. You've got guys that are in the industry that are out there busting their butts, constantly trying to remember. Because the thing about it is with the cigar shop is you may smoke a cigar and then you forget about it. And then someone says, hey, you're not smoking XYZ. You're like, oh, I forgot about that cigar. So that's not on the retailer to remind you of the cigar you were smoking 2 months ago, because you're still in there buying cigars.
Correct.
So as long as you're buying cigars, the retailer's happy. So I think that's on the manufacturer. And I think that, no one really wants to admit that such a huge part of this business is marketing, is having it where you're front of mind, where there's a story about them, or they do a podcast or something like that. And so many of them don't do that. And then they wonder why their brand doesn't sell or why retailers aren't calling them up. It's like, well, I don't know. You don't have an outreach program that's trying to sell your cigars.
No, I agree. And there is a role for the retailer, like you said, especially if the retailer wants to spend money. But the second the retailer realizes that its own audience or its own consumer base doesn't want it, like, it's no longer the retailer's fault. Like, that's on the brand owner to then come in and revigorate that and revitalize that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, look, the retailer is already selling their consumer a certain number of cigars. If they put you on another cigar just because it's new, they're taking a risk of burning their credibility of always making sure you have good cigars. Now, if they bring in a cigar that's good, and they're like, hey, I know you always smoke these. Give this one a shot. I just brought these guys in. I think they're pretty good. But the retailer's just swapping dollars. The guy's not buying more sticks because you got another brand. So it's the retailer's responsibility, I think, to make sure that they're constantly making sure that whatever profile that consumer wants, they're getting us some really good cigars that they want to try. And maybe that guy wants to try new cigars. Maybe he doesn't. And that the retailer needs to know that. But it's not the retailer's responsibility to take an unknown upstart brand and push that cigar just because that person has a cigar.
No, correct. Because like you said, there's only, there's no standardized size for humidors within lounges. Some of them are a case. Like, some of them are literally like 2 3x3 shelves, cases. Yeah. Why? Like, some of them aren't big. Some of them are like Abe's, full walk-ins. Some of them are half that size. So it's really that's where knowing the retailer and the manufacturer, knowing that market, because maybe it's always boggled me, and I'd actually like to get your opinion on it. It's always boggled me how I go to 3 different shops here in the Denver area. Each one of the shops has totally different best-selling cigars,
Mhm.
and they're all within a a mile or two the way the crow flies from each other.
Mhm.
Like, so that's where the manufacturer does need to kind of research the area, because some retailers might not be a good fit just in general. It just
Yeah.
because there's 5 doesn't mean you should be in 5,
Right.
you
Right.
know? So, but I am interested in your opinion on, why do you think a shop can be 3, 4, 5 miles away and have a completely different audience and blend? Like, it's essentially the same area, it's the same town.
I mean, look, you figure out that answer, and you could sell a billion cigars. I mean, some of it is just the shop owner and what they like. Some of it's the alpha dog in that shop that says this is the brand, and they the people in that lounge tend to follow that person. Oh, I like this new cigar, and then everybody buys that cigar. If you can figure that out, then you've got it made in this industry. It is hard to figure out, and to the point earlier, the manufacturer needs to go in. If they have, if you just have one cigar, then the good luck. But if you have a reasonable sized portfolio, then your job is to figure out what part of my portfolio fits in this shop.
Hmm.
So when I had Nomad, I would go in, and Pittsburgh was a very good example because there were several shops all within a very small cluster there. And I had some in one shop that were selling, they didn't sell in the other. And so what I would do is, if a cigar was not selling in a shop, but the other ones were, so you know what? Let me just take back these. They're not selling your shop. Let's put this other one in here because I think this is more of a fit for your audience in this shop, whatever it may be. And that, again, this is on the manufacturer side to work with the retailer. The retailer wants to sell more cigars, and they will help you sell more cigars, but you got to do it. Most retailers will allow you to do an event. Come in, do a
Yeah.
cut and light, introduce your cigars. But that costs money. It costs money to go on the road. It costs money to do events. And you don't have to give away the farm. You don't. Matter of fact, I don't believe in deals per se. I don't believe that you should go in and do an event, go, hey, buy 3, get 2, because I think that devalues your brand going
Hmm.
forward. The guy goes, well, on average, I spent $7 a stick. I don't really want to spend $10 a stick the next day when there's no longer a sale.
Yep.
So when I did events, I always said, look, if you buy 5, you get this one that you can't buy.
An event
It would
cigar.
either be it would be an event cigar, it would be a size that's not available of a cigar, it might be a future blend coming out. But that way, the person still paid pretty much full price for the other 5, but they got something extra. Maybe there's a piece of swag, maybe there wasn't. But generally speaking, you don't want to devalue your brand. So there are good ways to do events. There are good ways to do events like the hacking the blend and things like that give people an experience, give them some sort of education, give them a reason why, give them the story behind your blend. What makes your blend different? Why should they smoke your cigars? And then finding what your tribe is. What is the kind of guy that's going to smoke your cigar? And there are several companies
Hmm.
that have a specific tribe, a specific group of people that like their cigars because they want to be part of that culture. Do you have a culture for your blend? Do you have a culture for your line? What kind of person? It's the avatar, which in marketing I heard for years, 30 years ago, and they weren't called avatars then, but it's like, what is the person smoking your cigar? Who are they? What do they like? What do they normally smoke? Why would they smoke that blend? And it's your job to figure out which blends work in different areas, and understand the shops. If you walk into a shop blind and you're trying to get your cigars in there and you don't know what their top sellers are,
Yep.
then you're already behind the 8 ball because you don't even know which of your blends to put in there. And again, you have
Correct.
to have at least a decent sized portfolio. And I don't mean like you don't have to have 18 blends, but you got to have 4 to 5 blends, I think, to go in and start to get the right fit in a shop and understand that consumer and understand what they're looking for.
It would help to have a mild, a medium, and a strong at a minimum, because you can almost fit kind of most people. It doesn't mean you have a good cigar, but if I only smoke mediums, you at least have something for them, or if they only smoke mild, you have something for them, and so
Yeah,
on.
if you walk in with Connecticut and the cigar is predominantly selling 70%, fuller bodied or whatever, then yeah, you're under the gun on that. The
Correct.
other thing to pay attention to is sizes. I've
Correct.
walked into shops that everybody's only buying ring gauge and stuff, and I walk in with a small petite, Corona or something like that. Maybe a great cigar, but it's not what they smoke.
Correct. Correct. I know. I love Lanceros, and I'm one of the
Sure,
few.
we all love
I'm
Lanceros,
one, yeah,
but
I'm one of
they
the
don't sell.
few. I know they don't, and it's sad. It's sad.
I think we need to do Lonsdales. Lanceros had their shot. Let's go to Lonsdales.
Hey, I'm fine. I love the smaller ring gauge.
Honestly,
38
Lonsdales
to
are
48.
to me. Lonsdales are generally better anyway because I think there's more real estate to work with in a blend.
Okay,
Not to
that
say there
makes
aren't good
sense.
Lanceros, but I just find them to be better cigars
That makes sense.
for me.
That makes sense because Lonsdale's going to be in the 46 to 48 ring gauge, right?
Not even if it's a good blend, not every blend can transcend down to a Lancero.
That's true.
There's just not enough real estate. There are a lot of those blends that can still pull the Lonsdale level and still be that same blend. But look, I like Lanceros too. I like all the cigars for different reasons.
You got to be good at Lanceros, and I'm one of those guys that I love Lanceros. I do buy boxes of them, but I also find myself really only going with the Lanceros that I know the manufacturer actually smokes. I've had Lanceros come out from places I know the manufacturer's not a big Lancero, the brand owner's not a big Lancero guy, and they aren't always rolled the best. But like if the brand owner themselves are big Lancero people, I'm willing to try those and risk that because Lanceros are hard to roll, right? Oftentimes they are tight, super tight. And I find I have less of those issues when the brand owner is themselves a big Lancero person.
Yeah, I think. Look, I mean, it is a harder cigar. I mean, you tend to blend towards a 5x50 range in there, and then you tweak the blend as you get away from that, all the way up to 6x60 and all the way down to Lancero, and you're sacrificing components of that as your real estate runs out or increases on the other side. And look, the other problem with Lanceros. There's two problems, really. One, from a sales standpoint, is that they're not necessarily, yes, there's less tobacco, but it's not necessarily a cheaper production scenario.
No.
You still have cello, you still have bands, you still have boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So from a value standpoint, the guy on the shelf's looking at Lancero and go, well, for 75 cents more, I get a much bigger cigar. So that's a problem. The other problem with Lanceros is the people who smoke Lanceros, if they like the blend, and assuming the Lancero has been blended correctly, it's very easy to hotbox a Lancero.
Oh,
that is a
so
slow
easy.
sipping cigar. And I smoke relatively quick, so I have to force myself to slow down when I'm going to have a Lancero. That is not, you can't be in a time crunch.
Mm-hmm.
You can't, so some people that try Lanceros, I think, don't have a good experience, assuming that the cigar is blended right and assuming it's a good blend. They're probably just smoking it too fast.
I find that so Steve actually taught me something with Lanceros that actually help with all cigars, and I still do it. You should be able to hold the cherry of your cigar like this, and it shouldn't burn your fingers. If it's hot all the way down, you're smoking it way too. And that was a game changer for me in learning to smoke slow. Now, Colin's Cookout. Yes. Okay. Steve says he hates Lanceros, but the difference between smoking one of Steve's Lanceros by just risking it is Steve also, while he doesn't smoke them, would never put out anything inferior or just something to have out there on the market at the same time. I think Steve's an anomaly in the cigar world, kind of, in the sense that he does have an intense following and can almost put out anything. Now, I'm not saying anything bad, but anything he puts out sells very quickly. It's one of the first TGSs that goes. But I also think what makes that possible for Steve is a brutally honest guy. Nobody talks to Steve. You could give Steve a cigar, and if it's trash, he'll look at it and go, it's garbage, and he'll put it down. That rubs people the wrong way sometimes, but that also carries a caliber of trust behind it. Does that
Sure.
Would you agree with that? And
look, I don't think you should be doing a Lancero if you don't think it's a good blend. I mean, and honestly, I don't know why you would do a Lancero if you don't feel it's a really good representation of that blend, because you're not going to sell a ton of them. So just it's not a portfolio filler. It's not like, hey, I don't really have a medium plus cigar, so I'm going to put out a medium plus cigar because I need something in my portfolio. No one puts out a Lancero thinking you're going to make a killing in sales. It's distracting. it's not going to sell a lot. So if you're not putting out a Lancero because you don't think it's a great representation of that blend in that size, why would you do it?
Correct. And that's where I think Steve on that side is more showboat on that. I know he loved the Lancero blends. He wouldn't have put them out.
Yeah.
Now we have a question here from Cigar Smoking Arborist. Do you find that Lanceros feel harder than, let's say, a Toro? I don't understand necessarily what you're asking, other than like harder on the cigar. Yeah, I would say a Lancero shouldn't have much squish to it, by any means, if that's the question you're asking. We got let's see, I was being a little tongue, everything. Yeah, everything he says he hates does sell, but Steve's a master at manipulating the market, in the sense that he's a really good marketer. I mean, he went out. You were, I think you were there at the TGS, where he's like, "I've got like 5 boxes left. Abe told me to bring more than I should have, and I don't want to lose it." And then somebody went out and bought the 5 boxes, But so one of the things that I think would be kind of fun are, for you to kind of put out. I want to talk a little bit about what are some of your pet peeves as a whole within the cigar industry, whether it be from the consumer side, from the manufacturer side, or from the retailer side.
It's a good question. I think that as an industry, and we've gotten through a lot of this. There was a lot of misinformation and poor education out there, and I think we've done a better job as a whole of an industry of educating consumers a little bit better, those that want to be educated. I also think we get hung up on a multitude of flavors in a review. And maybe that's just me. Maybe that's just because I don't taste boysenberries from the south side of the hill. I don't. I mean, I taste tobacco. I mean, and I understand that. Look, I went into this industry from a cooking background, so I would taste the flavors and I would taste what did I like about that tobacco, and I had basically the regular amount of things that I would taste in tobacco. Every once in a while, I'm like, okay, I get how you could get chocolate out of that. But all those flavors are, generally speaking, your personal interpretation of something from your childhood. If you had
Correct.
Fruit Loops the whole time when you were a child, and you're like, oh, this reminds me of Fruit Loops, or it reminds me of burnt popcorn, or it reminds me of whatever. So I think sometimes it gets a little overblown and a little bit confusing. I also think the ratings sometimes are challenging. You try to find somebody that, if you're following ratings, you try to find somebody that you know, like, and trust, but more importantly, that you have a similar palate. Back in the day when I was a huge movie buff and still am, you'd find a movie critic that aligned with what you liked in movies, and if they recommended a movie, you're like, well, I tend to like all the movies they recommend. I'm going to try that. Or I go to ABC Wine, and there was a guy there, he just retired, that if I saw the tag that it was Tim's recommendation for this wine, I'm like, he hasn't steered me wrong. These have always been really, really good because he's in this wheelhouse that I'm in. Cigar Press, until a couple of years ago, we didn't put a review number on it. And I really always respected that. Unfortunately, we had a ton of consumers and a ton of manufacturers that are saying, look, we really want you to put a number on it. And our whole point was, look, I mean, it may be a 94 to me and it may be an 86 to you. I mean, they're kind of just, numbers. I don't know what it is to you. So we tend to talk about more what the experience was, whether it's, this mild, medium, full, is it fuller bodied? Does it kind of hang on your tongue, or does it go away? Is it drier feel? So I think sometimes we get hung up on that. And so I don't have a tendency to look at not necessarily even the number. I go off people that I think have good palates, and they say, hey, this is a really good cigar, and here's why. Then I'll try that cigar. I mean, I think one of the best things I did is I was working on a cigar at one point, and I hate it when you give a cigar to somebody, or someone gets a cigar and they go, this needs to be stronger. Well, why does it mean to be stronger? Because you like stronger cigars. That doesn't mean this cigar should be stronger. And I learned that was illustrated to me because I gave a blend that I was working on, and I'd been working on it for a while, and I gave it to Eladio Diaz when he was at Davidoff. And I knew Eladio, and we'd hang out in his office smoking. And I said, hey, try this, something I'm working on. And he lit it up, and he's smoking for a little while. And he says, tell me what you're going for. Tell me what you're trying to accomplish with the cigar. He wasn't saying it needed to be milder. He wasn't saying it needed to be fuller. He says, tell me what you're trying to do. AJ Fernandez was excellent with that. When I was learning tobacco in Nicaragua, AJ was good. When I would have a blend and take it to him, we'd smoke it in his office, and he'd say, what are you trying to do here? What do you, and I said, well, I feel like it's missing this or that. And he would point me in directions in the blend to go, well, you should try this other tobacco, or try dialing back on this and increasing this to get you what you want. If you're playing with good tobacco, then it's just all iterations of that, right? It's to get to what you're trying to accomplish. So sometimes I think we get hung up on just too much of the inertia. And again, that's something that Connoisseur Club really threw a light on, was this just, well, if this brand's label's on it, I know I'm not going to like it because I don't like their other stuff. Well, that doesn't mean you won't like that cigar.
Correct.
I've always told people to pay attention to the factories that it comes out, not just the brand, but pay attention to the factory. Because there are guys like myself, I would work with several different factories. There are guys that I like some of their stuff, but not some of their other stuff as much. For me, doesn't mean it's not good for somebody else, but I'm like, oh, I like it out of this factory, because a lot of factories have a very unique signature, and that has to do with how they're fermenting tobacco, what their standards are, what they try to accomplish out of that tobacco. And so pay attention to that more than necessarily just because someone's label's on it. And then also start to get familiar with what tobaccos you like. You may like Nicaraguan, Nicaragua has more of the spice inherently because of the nature and what's around there has more of the spice. Dominican has more of the floral notes. So you may say, well, I don't like Dominicans because they're mild. Like, well, you're missing out on a lot of milder cigars that are really, really good cigars, because you've written them off saying, well, they're not full body, they're not super strong. And some of them are, by the way. It's
real
like
quick,
looking
real
at
quick, real quick. You make a really, really good point. Body does not inherently distill flavor profile. You can have a mild cigar that's very full and rich in flavor.
Sure. Yeah, and you could pass by Maduros all day long thinking, oh, those are too strong because it's a dark wrapper.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be.
It doesn't have to be. These are common misnomers that I think, Fred, I think you need to write another book. I think you need to do like a cigar misnomer book, or common misunderstandings within the cigar world, and make it a pamphlet. I think that would be beneficial.
I can write a short article on it.
I think that would be beneficial, because so many people in the cigar world that are new and upcoming look at the darker wrappers, like they look at darker beer and go, oh man, that's got to be heavy. And sometimes it is. But like you said,
as a general rule, a darker beer is going to be heavier and a lighter beer is not. But that doesn't have to be the case, particularly when you start working in flavor. I had an event that I did, and I got into a debate with the retailer, because he says, well, look, all the dark cigars are stronger and all the lighter cigars are milder. I'm like, well, they don't have to be. And this is when I had the Connecticut Fuerte, which was a Connecticut that had a little bit of Laro in it just to give it a little bit more flavor, but it wasn't strong by any means. And he's like, there's no way. He says, any Connecticut cigar I have is absolutely going to be mild. And I said, okay. So then like 6 months later, I was in the factory in between that, and I went and I had just a batch made to bring back to that shop. And I took a Connecticut and I just stuffed a ton of Lajero in it and a ton of some stronger stuff. And I said, here you go, working on this new mild cigar. And he's like, this is not mild. And I'm like, thank you very much. That proves that. You can't judge a book by a cover.
You can't judge the cigar by the wrapper. I mean, it's very true. How has been, anybody that's been following you knows that you're currently under great angst in your house. Tremendous lonesome turmoil, to where your daughter is now getting in on it, sending you Tic Tacs for TikTok for time. So what have you been doing, making up your time for this week? How have you been filling it?
So my wife and daughter are on the Grand Canyon, whitewater rafting for like 18 days. They're almost done.
They're playing Deliverance?
Well, yeah, except it's Grand Canyon. So I imagine same thing, different accent, I guess. I'm not sure how it goes. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I mean, so I'm holding down the fort of our company while doing cigar press and everything. And so they can come back anytime now, because it's a whole lot of work. You know, and you know, like I just it's lonely, right? I get up, I kind, you know, I'm used to sitting out on the deck with my cigar, and my wife has a glass of wine, and then she beats me at cards, and then the meals though, there's no one to keep me grounded on the healthy foods as much as when my wife's around. So I've kind of eaten like not really good foods for the most part. But I think I just had pizza tonight. So, you know, I
Frozen?
don't know how many frozen pizza. No, no, no.
You probably don't do
So,
much frozen pizza.
no, not really. I have a pizza oven, and so I'll fire that up once sometimes for lunch or whatever. Just make little pizzas. But I don't know. I did a prime rib for 4 people the other night, and it's just me. But so it's interesting. It's good and it's not good. I mean, but it's quiet. Nobody's fighting over the coffee maker in the morning, so that part is a plus, I guess.
Now you're a beef jerky guy too, right? So have you tried any of those crispy, crunchy beef jerkies that are going around like crazy right now?
No, I
Um,
haven't seen those. I
yeah,
haven't seen those.
get on TikTok, and if you type in crispy beef jerky, they're literally like beef jerky chips. When they put the microphone, it crunch like a Pringle almost, or like a Lay's potato
Are they
chip.
good?
I have no idea. I was hoping that you've actually tried them.
Well, I'm not on TikTok, so it's the only social media. Look, you can't do all the social media, so I'm predominantly on Facebook and then Twitter. But Twitter's kind of died off for some reason. I think it's just it's going away as much. But I don't know. I'm gonna have to look at. I don't know if I would like that or not. I kind of like beef jerky for being beef jerky. I do like the sticks, like the chomp sticks. I like those, and you know, things like that. But I don't know if I would like beef jerky as a chip, because I have a tendency to gravitate towards thicker beef jerky, like the chunks, because I kind of want that meat, you know, the meat texture to it. I don't know if I would like chip or not. But then again, I just had, you know, pizza flavored Pringles, you know, several days ago. So what do I know?
Yeah, let me look it up here real quick and show you. Or I'll send you the link for it. Um, but yeah, it's all like I see it everywhere. Everyone's doing all of this like it's like gourmet made. They've got like
So they're just
candied
super
beef jerky.
dehydrated beef jerky. Is that what it is? Or just
Yeah,
super thin,
yeah.
super dehydrated?
Yeah, so there's like
I don't
this
know.
stuff. So there's like this stuff, which is like whole
Yeah.
slabs. That's the soft stuff. And then they've got uh where is it? Stuff like that, the beef jerky crisps. Where it's literally like chewing on a like a chip. I just was curious if you've ever tried that because I've been wanting to
No.
try it.
I'm
It
worried
looks
that, I mean,
good.
what if it's really good? Now I'm eating bags of beef. It's like I don't eat like a bag of beef jerky, right? You have it in your bag, you have it in your car, and you take a couple, you know, pieces, and you're good. I'd be worried on a chip. I mean, I'm from Wisconsin. Chip mentality is like the bag is single serving. I don't know, that could be really bad for me.
Well, I know they come in like bags of like only like 1 ounces.
Oh, that's now I'm just eating that
Yeah,
while I'm waiting to find beef jerky.
so here you go. So you can see they're actually like full on beef
Yeah,
jerky
that's not.
chips.
I would eat that while I'm looking in the pantry to find out what I want to eat.
But they're super dehydrated, so there's a lot in the 1 ounce bag. Like I said, I was just curious if you'd ever tried those.
There's
I'm
a lot in a
curious.
1 ounce bag. It's still 1 ounces.
It's
One
still one
ounce.
ounce. I was
It's
gonna
still
say
only
one
1 ounce.
ounces.
It's only 1 ounces.
Well, I'll send you the link after. I'd be curious to see
All right.
what your thoughts are on them because I want to get them
Oh,
myself.
I'm gonna get it. I'm gonna get it. I mean, you know, I can't not get it. You know.
Well, you got to sign up for TikTok because they sell it on the TikTok shop.
I'm sure I can find it somewhere other than TikTok if
sure
it's
you
really
can.
that good.
I'm sure you can. I'm sure you can. Well, Fred, here in closing, I wanted to kind of go through just maybe some new lightning round questions for you.
New
Ooh.
issues out. There you go. It's in your store right
how
now.
many pages is that?
I don't know.
Oh, it's a good thick magazine.
64.
And and anybody can get that sent straight to their house then, correct?
No. So we send multiple copies to over 2,000 cigar stores. So it's probably in the cigar store near you, and they're free.
Well, what happens if somebody wants a subscription at home?
We don't do that.
Oh.
That's a lot of work. Then I got to charge
okay.
for it. Then I got to ship it to them. So we've been talking about it. We're getting a lot more requests for that. I don't know. That's a lot more work, but we might have to do that at some point.
Why would it be a lot more work? I mean, you're shipping 2,000 plus of them already. You add another.
Yeah, but then I gotta have the
logistics.
list of current subscribers, and then I gotta bill the subscribers, and then I'm asking somebody to pay, I don't know, $19 a year or something like that. It just seems like a lot of work. I mean, we just give them away free. Now it seems weird to charge for them.
Okay.
Go to cigarpress.com. Go to cigarpress.com. Eventually, the stuff that's in the magazine ends up on cigarpress.com, just not right away.
Yes, Bruce, they are online, and you guys put up a full digital magazine online?
No, but we're talking about it. I gotta find a way to do it that's not that annoying, like flip, or I'm supposed to pretend I'm flipping pages of a magazine and zoom in and stuff like that. I don't know.
Well, that would be maybe a paywall opportunity. That would be an easy thing. That could be automated if you were to actually do a digital subscription to the magazine. That could be a paywall.
What part of me not needing more work have I not got through in the last hour and 45 minutes?
Yeah, but you know what? That could be automated at this point. I mean,
well, it probably could.
You're smart enough. You know how you automate most of your life. I mean, do you use AI every day, don't you?
Not every day. I mean, I use it for sometimes emails or something like that, or to try to clean up my email folder. I'll use it sometimes for some ideas, like give me some topics on something else that's not related to cigars or whatever. It's pretty good. It's pretty good at number crunching on some stuff we do on number crunching and stuff like that.
Okay, so we have a question.
Bruce. I do use it. I'll use it for sometimes, like on Cigar Press. What I'll use it for sometimes is for the photo that's on the page. Like I'll use it for that. But I mean, I don't. It's easy for us because Cigar Press is more of a pulp fiction-y type thing. So that's easy for me to do an AI photo that's not obnoxious. That's like, I don't want to do a picture that's like supposed to be a real guy in a lounge holding a cigar type thing. Yeah. I'm not trying to do, I don't want it to be like in place of a real life thing, but if it's something kind of fun or graphically fun, then that's okay.
And you're right, because anytime you ever try to do a picture of somebody holding a cigar, the cigar's never in the hand right, or their 6 fingers,
or it just it's burning on the wrong end.
Yeah.
And look, even if it got it right, I'm only doing stuff that's the same thing that we get illustrators to do for us. I'm not looking, and I prefer to do an illustrator, but sometimes time, or it's just a one-off article. And actually, a lot of times it only shows up on the page, on the home page. And when you click on it, that photo's not there anymore. It's just, a placeholder, if you will. So not a lot of time or effort needs to go into that.
A good friend of the show, Richard Beard, who's started his mobile lounge. He wants to know how he could get a Cigar Press magazine for the lounge.
I'll get you those. Just tell him to send me a text.
Just reach out to him, Richard.
Yeah, we'll just send me an email. We'll add you to the list of retailers. Just tell me what your lounge is and where we should mail them, and I'll just add you to the distribution list of all the retailers.
It's that easy. So if you're a retailer watching the show,
if I get 50 people saying they have mobile lounges, I'm not responding to any of them. So don't think that's a loop. I'm vetting this, okay? I want a picture of your mobile lounge with you in it. I don't want, this is not a loophole for everybody. I hear you. I'll try to figure out a way to get everybody's hands, but...
Well, I can tell you Richard did own one. And we actually have so here's a question about personal subscriptions. How many would it take to be worth it to do for you? If you knew you had a list of 2,000 people that wanted to subscribe, would that be like, is there a number where you would be like, okay, I'll do it?
Oh, I don't even know. That's a very good question. I mean, people get it in the shops for free now. I don't even know what that list would look like, but I guess I can look at my emails and see how many people have already reached out. So I will add that to the list to investigate.
Because I mean, if you're kicking off really well, people want to have it in their house, or they have their own personal home lounges too that they wanted it. Can they get it from a home lounge?
Yeah, or they could just bring up cigarpress.com on their iPad, and it's right there.
No, just put it on their TV. Right? Full big screen on their TV.
Yeah, that's a giant magazine right there. The whole website right on your TV.
And Fred will make it so it flips. A 55-inch TV that flips your magazine.
Oh no, it's got to be a 65-inch. I can't get it in that. Then I got to letterbox it. It gets weird.
Well, Fred, here in closing, how do you want the cigar industry to remember Fred Rewey 20, 30 years from now, or when you're gone? How do you want to be remembered within this industry?
Okay, 30 years from now, if I'm here, I'll
No,
be
that's why
absolutely amazed. But
well,
yeah, that's
what do you
fair.
mean? You're like you're not you're super young. 30, you'd be in your 70s, right? 30 years from now.
So I just turned 60, but okay.
Oh shit. That's right.
Yeah,
You
see,
did.
yeah,
You
yeah.
did.
Okay, there you
You
go.
look
There
good
you go.
though. You look good for 60.
I know.
I wish I
know.
looked good. I wish I looked like you at 41.
I had the Ralph Macchio disease when I was young, so you know, I got carded till I was 35, and now I just, you know, so you get paid back at some point on that, but it's because of cigars. It's low stress. That's what it is, because of cigars. Look, I think it's a great question. I just want to be remembered as, you know, if I can just make somebody laugh or smile or exhale and get stress out of their life and stuff because they read something I did or heard some show like this or something like that, that's good enough for me. I mean, you know, you want to have, I'm not saying I have to have a massive impact on anybody's life, but I'd like to be remembered as somebody that's like, you know, he was a good guy. He was somebody that, you know, was real and said it like it was, and enjoyed himself, and was, you know, fun to be around. And I think that I'd be okay with that.
But I think you've proven that you're okay with that, because I think that's very much your personality right now. So, well, Fred, it's always fun having you on. Thank you. I'm so glad I was able to have somebody to, or you were able to have somebody to spend some time with this week.
Oh yeah, no, I appreciate it. Yeah, this was great. This was great.
Yeah, I'm glad it was a fun show for you. I hope it was new
literally
questions.
Would have been out here yelling at the raccoon that's going up my bird feeder right now if you weren't here. So
get a BB gun.
Nah, gosh, I can't do that. Raccoons are cute.
Get the rubber BBs. They just
I don't think this guy would even care. I really don't. He's short, but he's scrappy. I mean,
you know, speaking of that, I was, you know, my granddad was born and raised in Ocala, Florida. So obviously my dad was 98 Northwest 100th Avenue. I still always remember that address. That we don't own it as a house, so don't show up at the door. But I remember being like 11 or 12, and I knew where all the guns were in the house, and there was this crow outside my window, just rah, rah, super early. You know, the crows in Florida are intense. And I remember it's like 6 a.m, and I just walked over. Granddad's in the kitchen breaking his unfrosted whole log shredded wheat. You remember those? Putting that right in with some prunes and some other fruit. And I walked over and I grabbed the shotgun, walked outside, and bam, walked back in, set it down. And I was like, I'll be up in a few hours. And when I got up, he's like, I went and looked outside. He goes, you shot that crow? He goes, I was like, yeah. He goes, good. He goes, I was going to shoot it the other week too. That thing keeps waking me up in the morning. But it's you just shoot it, you know. Granddad had 10 acres, and Florida was a little bit different back then, I'm sure, to how it is now. But, well, Fred, it's always so much fun to have you on, brother. Are you going to be at Rocky Mountain Cigar Fest this year?
Planning on it. Yeah.
Are you going to be there for you or Cigar Press?
Yes, Cigar Press.
Okay.
Although I probably would have went for me, because I've gone for me without Cigar Press. But I'll probably, you know, it'll be both.
So are you going to be doing the pre-events?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So we'll see you at the dojo, wherever the dojo pre-event is. You'll be there. So awesome.
Yeah,
so
I'll be there.
Anything you'd like to announce before we end the show?
No, if you're not subscribed to cigarpress.com, go to cigarpress.com. There's a subscribe in the top right corner, depending on what, or at the bottom if you're scrolling on a phone. You'll get the weekly emails. I send out one email every Thursday, which gives a recap of what we published that week and what we reviewed. And we're always running some contests. We've always got some sort of cool contests. Right now, we're in the middle of a PCA. We have the PCA humidor, and we're throwing some cigars in it. So someone's going to win that by the end of the month.
Fantastic. And as always, Fred, you're welcome on this show anytime I can pay you enough to get you on. Because this was a very, very expensive show, guys. You don't even understand what Fred requires.
My
So
rider is huge. My rider, I'm just a huge rider.
so thank you so much, Fred. We'll see you on KMA here in a couple weeks, right?
I think so. Yeah,
About every 4 to 6 weeks you're on. So
something like that. Yeah.
So be on the lookout for Fred over at KMA. And until we see you again, smoke what you like, smoke as often as you can, and have a great, great rest of your week. Bye, everyone.